So, again, out of respect for feelings of people who are still not quite ready to admit that they've been misled, let's begin by saying there are other reasons why lorry drivers are as rare as hen's teeth at the moment. It's not just because of all the lorry drivers who have gone back to their European countries whence they came and have precious little interest in coming back to Blighty to drive trucks. The shift to IR35 has had a financial impact. It's had an impact on everybody who's been required to move to IR35. I know that because I'm one of them. And that is part of it too. You also have drivers retiring and not being replaced. You don't have new drivers coming up the bottom of it, but you would have to be as thick as mince or Mark Francois to pretend that Brexit is not... Sorry, that's tautology, isn't it? You'd have to be as thick as mince and Mark Francois to believe that this is not related to Brexit. And that's just the tip of it. So here's a story all about how the country got... No, here's a story which I'm fairly confident, if it wasn't for the fact that the newspapers dedicated to making you angry are responsible for these problems, they would be absolutely going tonto with fury about these facts. You probably don't even know, for example, that the head of the Road Haulage Association has warned that we could be, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, facing a collapse of the supply chain. You might know, you might be paying attention. Some outlets are still doing proper journalism. In this case, there was an interview on the BBC where the head of the RHA, the Road Haulage Association, Richard Burnett, said, we're facing, potentially in the next 2 to 3 weeks. OK, another caveat. When I say could, it doesn't mean will, OK? So the desperation to sort of malign people telling the truth is now so acute that if I said, for example, let's imagine that in March of 2020, I tweeted without comment a story from another newspaper saying that not being in the European Union could harm our vaccine rollout or our vaccine procurement scheme. Now, how desperate, for example, would the Daily Mail have to be to pick up on that tweet 9 or 10 months after the event? Just a humble little gob on a stick like me, your friendly neighbourhood radio presenter. So desperate would, for example, a newspaper like the Daily Mail be to seek to undermine all the people that have been telling the truth about Brexit from the very beginning, that 9-10 months after that, they would run an article, I don't know, written by someone called Guy Adams, I mean, just names off the top of my head, pretending that tweet was actually predicting and expressing an opinion about vaccine rollouts, rather than simply reporting with the headline that was written by the newspaper, the comments of some qualified experts. That's how desperate they are, because they should be talking about this every single blinking day at the moment. If there is a potential problem, we all hope it doesn't happen. So if this is avoided, if this cliff edge is avoided, if this catastrophe is averted, we will all be happy, because people on the right side of history, since that infernal referendum, do not want things to go badly in order to be proved right. It's one of the personality differences that marks us apart from the most boneheaded Brexiters. By no means all of them, but the ones who would actually cut off their own noses to spite their faces. The ones who are already talking about, knowing all along that there were going to be haulage shortages and economic damage and factories closing.